Damn it, how could they smile while stabbing me in the back? My name is Lisa Crawford. I built everything from the ground up, alone. This was supposed to be my victory, my dream house. But what happened inside these walls turned into something else entirely. A betrayal so deep it made family my greatest enemy. And I have the footage to prove it. My name is Lisa Crawford, and I'm 38 years old. I spent nearly 2 decades climbing a mountain most people never even get to glimpse from afar. Construction sites, permit offices, raw soil beneath my boots, those were my classrooms. I learned every angle, every rule, every cost. And finally, after years of pouring every ounce of myself into blueprints, negotiations, late-night project edits, and bruising bank rejections, I built the thing that once felt impossible. My home. Not just any home. A villa. Perched on the west side of Santa Clara, it overlooks the entire valley. At night, the city glows beneath it like a field of diamonds. I designed every inch of it, from the cantilevered roofline to the south-facing glass wall that catches the morning light like a cathedral. The floating staircase, the minimalist walnut floors, the open kitchen with Italian marble. I didn't just build it for beauty. I built it to prove I belonged. You see, no one thought I could do it. Not as a woman, not as someone without a trust fund, not as someone who came from a family where being realistic meant settling. But I didn't settle. This house was my stand. It was every, "You're too ambitious," every, "Why don't you find something safer," every rejection wrapped in granite and steel. A place I could finally breathe, finally say, I did this. The housewarming party was set for the next afternoon. I had booked a French caterer, hired an event team, and finalized the lighting design with the same precision I used for structural loads. Guests were scheduled to arrive around 4 p.m. Old college friends, colleagues, even 2 architects who had once rejected me for a partnership 5 years ago. I wasn't interested in showing off. I just wanted to celebrate what I had built, with people who knew how hard the climb had been. That morning, I pulled into the driveway just after sunrise. The lawn was freshly trimmed. The lavender bushes I planted last fall were finally blooming. I sat in the car for a moment, staring at the silhouette of the house through the windshield. My chest swelled with pride. But there was something else too. A tension in the air, an odd stillness. Maybe it was just nerves. After all, this wasn't just another project. It was mine. I reached for the keys. My fingers paused midair. What if this house changes me? What if I've come this far and still lose everything? I shook the thought away. I had no reason to worry. Everything was done. Locked down, registered, paid in full. Still, something didn't sit right. That faint murmur of anxiety, like a draft under a closed door. I grabbed my tote bag, stepped out of the car, and approached the front steps. The sun had just started to rise behind the hills, casting a warm amber glow across the glass panels. I smiled to myself, reaching into my bag for the key, and then I heard it. A voice, faint but unmistakable, from inside, my sister's voice. "Don't you think this is the perfect place for a wedding?" I froze, my key still in my hand, not yet in the lock. A cold ripple ran down my spine. Wait, what? Inside? Inside my house. I didn't move at first. The key hung between my fingers like dead weight. My feet planted on the tile porch, body tilted forward, halfway between reality and denial. Maybe I heard wrong. Maybe it was the wind. But then I heard her again, louder this time, echoing off the high ceilings I had personally designed. "The mezzanine will be great for the stage, and we can set the reception tent in the backyard. Look how wide it is." What? My chest tightened. That voice didn't belong in here. Not without my permission. Not ever. I finally slid the key in, turned. The door opened with its usual soft click, and the scent of polished wood and new paint rushed out to greet me. I stepped in, and I saw her. Rachel. Standing dead center in the entry hall, her heels clicking across the walnut floors. She was gesturing excitedly to a tall blonde woman beside her, who was holding a clipboard and nodding with bright, professional interest. A wedding planner? They were talking as if I didn't exist, as if this place, my place, was already part of someone else's life. White orchids would be lovely against the wood paneling, don't you think? Something warm, romantic. Oh yes, maybe soft gold lighting too, for that golden hour effect. The planner chimed in. My throat was dry, but my voice came out clear. "Rachel." She turned. Her eyes lit up like she'd just seen a lottery check clear. "Oh, you're back," she said. "All sugar and sparkle." I thought Mom and Dad told you. They decided to give me the house as a wedding gift. I blinked. Her words didn't register at first. They floated in the air like a cruel joke waiting for a punchline. I stepped forward slowly. A quiet chaos churned inside me. Give you the house? I repeated, my voice tighter now. She beamed. Actually beamed, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, I mean, come on, Lisa. You live alone. You're always at work. It's too much space for just one person. Connor and I are starting a family. It makes sense. Something broke in me. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something colder, like watching someone take a knife to your favorite painting and call it home improvement. My lips moved before I could filter the words. This is my house. I built it. I paid for every brick, every permit. What are you even talking about? She gave me that old look again. The one she used in high school whenever she forgot her homework and expected someone else to take the blame. Soft eyes, tilted head, a smile painted with pity. Lisa, just think about it from a family perspective, okay? She said gently. Mom and Dad just want what's best for all of us. As if on cue, I heard the back door open. Footsteps. Then voices. My parents. My mother walked in like she owned the place, immediately pointing toward the corner archway. Oh yes, the flowers can go there. That would look stunning in photos. My father followed silently. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I felt the floor shift beneath me. Not literally, emotionally. The kind of shift you only feel when you realize the betrayal was planned. And you were the last to know. I looked at my mother. What is going on? I asked, each word sharpened by disbelief. Why is there a wedding being planned in my house? She turned toward me, all warmth and diplomacy, as if this was some misunderstanding I just needed to breathe through. Lisa, she began, in that soft, manipulative tone she used when trying to disguise guilt as grace, you work so hard, you're barely ever home, we just thought, this house would be better used by someone who needs it. And just like that, the truth slipped out. Not like a bomb, but like a whisper that destroys you more completely than any scream. My house. My dream, and they'd already decided it wasn't mine anymore. For a moment, no one moved. The air felt thick, like the house itself had inhaled, waiting to see what I'd do next. Was I supposed to smile? To nod and let it go? Was I expected to step aside, hand over the keys, and say, "Congratulations, Rachel"? I looked at them. At all of them. My mother now walking through the hall like an interior decorator. My father silent, scanning the floor. Rachel, glowing as if this absurd announcement was somehow noble. How many times had they made decisions for me? How many times had I stayed quiet, letting them push, manipulate, bend me out of shape just to keep the peace? Too many. But not this time. I walked over to the dining table, still bare, untouched by the wedding madness. I pulled out my laptop from my tote bag, flipped it open, and began typing. Fast, cold, focused. Lisa, what are you doing? My father asked, his voice low, trying to sound reasonable. I'm reminding you who this house belongs to, I said without looking up. Click, click. Folder open. Construction contracts, I murmured. Permits, contractor receipts, material invoices, city inspections, every document has my name. I turned the screen around. There it was, the digital folder titled Property Legal. Inside a scanned copy of the ownership deed. Lisa M. Crawford. Sole owner. I looked at Rachel, her face drained of color. But, Dad said it was under your name just for financing, she stammered. I thought it was temporary. It never was, I cut her off. Not for 1 second. Mom stepped forward. Sweetheart, you're tired. Let's not escalate this. Your father handled the paperwork. Maybe there's still some flexibility if we talk to a lawyer. I snapped the laptop shut. No, there's no flexibility. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is theft, dressed up in white orchids and lies. Rachel blinked, her expression flickering between defiance and desperation. You live alone, Lisa. What are you even protecting? Some empty house and pride? I stepped closer. I'm protecting everything I built. Every night I stayed late reviewing specs. Every loan I paid off on my own. Every relationship I let slip because I was too busy making this work. I sacrificed for this place, and none of you lifted a single finger. The room fell into a dangerous silence. My mother shifted uncomfortably, brushing her hair behind her ear, a nervous tic she'd had since I was a child. You don't have to make this ugly, she said, quietly. It already is, I replied. You just didn't expect me to say no. Then I pulled out my phone, dialed, Hi Alex, it's Lisa. I need you to resend all property files to my email. Yes, everything. I want hard copies printed by tonight. Also, call the security company. I want new locks installed today, and a full surveillance system set up before tomorrow. My dad's jaw tensed. Lisa, you're crossing a line. I turned to him slowly. No, the line was crossed the moment you walked into my home and handed it to someone else. Rachel stepped forward, voice shaking. I just thought you'd understand. You always say family is everything. I stared at her. My little sister, who'd never once followed through on anything, now standing there expecting the world. You don't build a family by stealing from one, I said flatly. You don't deserve this house, and you sure as hell didn't earn it. I walked to the front door, opened it wide. A sharp breeze blew in, cool and clean, like clarity itself. You have 10 minutes to leave, I said. After that, I'll consider it trespassing. Rachel looked stunned. My mother gasped, my father stared like I'd become a stranger. But I felt calm, no shaking hands, no stutter in my voice, just clarity. Was this the moment I lost my family? Maybe. Or maybe it was the moment I finally found myself. They left, not in 10 minutes, but close enough. Rachel's heels clicked against the marble floor like retreating gunfire. My mom sobbed quietly into her scarf, muttering something about ungrateful daughters. My dad didn't say a word. When the door finally shut, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. But peace didn't last long. That night, my phone lit up like it was on fire. Aunt Patty? Uncle Mark? A cousin I hadn't seen in 3 years, message after message, each one some version of, Lisa, you're overreacting. Family comes first. You have everything, can't you just let Rachel have this one thing? Not a single one asked what Rachel had done. Not one of them wondered why I had to act. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and started organizing every file I had related to the villa. Permits, invoices, blueprints, bank statements. I backed it all up to a drive and emailed a copy to my lawyer, Alec, just in case. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. Rachel stood on the front steps, wearing white, a wedding dress, and beside her Connor, her fiancé, hands in his pockets, eyes full of shame. I didn't open the door. Instead, I watched through the camera feed as Rachel posed dramatically like a misunderstood heroine in a tragedy only she believed. She rang the bell once, then again. When no one answered, she began knocking, insistently. I sipped my tea. The camera pinged, backup footage saved. I smiled. I didn't know what she was planning, but whatever it was, I was ready. And then came the knock I didn't expect. Brandon Hayes. Not Rachel's brother, not her best friend. Her fiancé, the man I'd barely spoken to, standing at my door the next afternoon with a folder in hand and a jaw so tight it looked carved from stone. Sorry to drop by, he said quietly, but I didn't know who else to talk to. I led him to the living room. He sat down, set the folder on the table like it might explode. She told me the house was hers, he said, eyes down. She said it was a wedding gift, that it was just under your name for paperwork reasons. I said nothing, let the silence speak for me. I believed her, he went on, until I came to your housewarming, saw your name etched on the reading room wall. After that, I started asking questions. He slid the folder toward me. Social media screenshots, email threads, bank statements, and at the top, a logo I'd never authorized, Crawford Luxury Estates. She's pretending to be a developer, Brandon said. Using your house photos, your floor plans, your credentials. I think she's trying to scam investors. He opened to the bank docs. She's applying for loans in our parents' names. There are forged signatures. I think they knew, or didn't care enough to check. My stomach turned. I looked at one photo. Rachel standing in my foyer, blueprint in hand, smiling like a CEO. Another, captioned a Lisa Crawford original, designed for families who want luxury without compromise. She had even used my name. She's not just lying to you, Brandon said quietly. She's impersonating you, and I think it's bigger than you think. I stood, walked to my filing cabinet, pulled out the USB I had prepared the night they tried to take the house. I plugged it into my laptop, uploaded every legal file, every deed, every signed contract. Then I wrote an email to Alec. Subject, emergency, fraud and impersonation, body. She's not just crossing boundaries anymore, she's committing open fraud. We need to act, now. As I hit send, a thought cut through the noise in my head. What if this isn't just about a house anymore? What if this is about erasing me, so she can become me? It escalated faster than I imagined. The day after I sent Alec the files, he called. Lisa, I've reviewed everything. What she's doing isn't just impersonation, it's criminal. We're filing for a restraining order today, and I'll begin preparing the fraud case immediately. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I was done asking for understanding. I was done hoping anyone would wake up and do the right thing. 3 days later, I received the official court notice. Restraining order approved. Rachel Crawford. Daniel Crawford. Carol Crawford. None of them were allowed within 100 feet of my home. The home I built, the life they tried to rewrite. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for years. That afternoon, I had the final set of smart locks installed. The gate updated with facial recognition. Surveillance systems synced to my phone. No one outside the list I approved could step inside again. That evening, Alec texted, "Official copies of the restraining order sent. We've archived all emails and video footage. If they push further, we're ready." I stared at the screen. If they push further, they already had. I just hadn't realized how far until the knock came. Another alert flashed across my phone. Motion detected. Living room, unauthorized presence. I opened the camera app. Rachel, again. This time, she wasn't alone. She was hosting a presentation. In my living room. 8 people surrounded her, investors judging by their sharp suits and legal pads. Rachel stood before them in heels and a pristine white blouse, gesturing confidently at my walls, my floors, my space. "As you can see, this is the flagship model for Crawford Luxury Estates," she said, her voice a polished lie. "I personally designed every inch. Our early investors will receive exclusive returns during the pre-sale phase." I didn't feel rage, not anymore. I felt something deeper, something more dangerous, clarity. I picked up the phone. "Santa Clara Police Department," the dispatcher answered. "There's an intruder in my home," I said calmly. "She's impersonating me and using my private property to solicit investments under a fraudulent company. There is an active restraining order. Address, 42 Hillside Drive. I have real-time surveillance footage." 10 minutes later, red and blue lights bathed the facade of my home. Through the live feed, I watched the 2 officers enter. Rachel's face twisted in disbelief. This is a misunderstanding." But one of the investors turned to her, face hard. "This isn't your house?" he asked. "You told us you owned the entire development." I opened the door just as she tried to explain her way out. I stepped into the room, holding the property deed like a blade. "I'm Lisa Crawford," I said. "The legal owner of this house, and the woman you've been speaking to is impersonating me, under active legal investigation for fraud." Rachel's lips parted, but no sound came. The officers stepped in. "You're violating a court order," one of them said. "You'll need to come with us." As they took her outside, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. She wasn't fighting anymore, she wasn't crying, she just looked empty. Behind her I saw the faces of the investors shift, from confusion to disgust. One of them murmured, "How many people did she scam already?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because now the evidence spoke for me. That night the house was silent again, not an empty silence, an earned one. No more heels clicking across my floors, no whispers behind my back, no masks slipping just out of sight. Just peace. But peace, I learned, comes with a price. My phone rang. "Mom." I stared at the screen, then let it ring out. Seconds later, a voicemail. I didn't want to listen, but I did. Her voice was shrill, cracking between disbelief and rage. "Lisa, have you lost your mind? You had your own sister arrested, in front of investors. Do you know what this will do to our family's name?" I paused the message halfway through. I wasn't interested in guilt anymore. Not when it came dressed like love, but sounded like control. Instead, I opened my laptop, drafted a simple email to Alec. Subject, move forward. Body, press full charges, fraud, identity theft, trespassing, no settlements, no silence. 3 days later, I stood in a quiet conference room at the Santa Clara Police Department. Detective Paul Ramsey laid a folder in front of me, thick, heavy, and damning. "You need to prepare yourself," he said. I nodded. "She's been impersonating you for nearly 8 months, he continued. "Emails, licensing applications, even using your social security number. She's scammed over $2 million in fake investments." My hands tightened in my lap. He turned the next page. Loan documents, wire transfers, signatures. But what hit hardest wasn't Rachel, it was the names beside hers. Rachel's face twisted in disbelief. This is a misunderstanding." But one of the investors turned to her, face hard. "This isn't your house," he asked. You told us you owned the entire development. I opened the door just as she tried to explain her way out. I stepped into the room, holding the property deed like a blade. I'm Lisa Crawford, I said, the legal owner of this house, and the woman you've been speaking to is impersonating me, under active legal investigation for fraud. Rachel's lips parted, but no sound came. The officers stepped in. You're violating a court order, one of them said. You'll need to come with us. As they took her outside, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. She wasn't fighting anymore. She wasn't crying. She just looked empty. Behind her, I saw the faces of the investors shift, from confusion to disgust. One of them murmured, "How many people did she scam already?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because now the evidence spoke for me. That night the house was silent again. Not an empty silence, an earned one. No more heels clicking across my floors, no whispers behind my back, no masks slipping just out of sight, just peace. But peace, I learned, comes with a price. My phone rang. Mom, I stared at the screen, then let it ring out. Seconds later, a voicemail. I didn't want to listen, but I did. Her voice was shrill, cracking between disbelief and rage. Lisa, have you lost your mind? You had your own sister arrested in front of investors? Do you know what this will do to our family's name? I paused the message halfway through. I wasn't interested in guilt anymore. Not when it came dressed like love but sounded like control. Instead, I opened my laptop, drafted a simple email to Alec. Subject, move forward. Body, press full charges, fraud, identity theft, trespassing, no settlements, no silence. 3 days later, I stood in a quiet conference room at the Santa Clara Police Department. Detective Paul Ramsey laid a folder in front of me, thick, heavy, and damning. You need to prepare yourself, he said. I nodded. She's been impersonating you for nearly 8 months, he continued. Emails, licensing applications, even using your social security number. She's scammed over $2 million in fake investments. My hands tightened in my lap. He turned the next page. Loan documents, wire transfers, signatures. But what hit hardest wasn't Rachel, it was the names beside hers. Daniel Crawford, Carol Crawford, my parents. I stared at them like they were strangers, because in this moment, they were. They signed off on multiple bank loans as co-guarantors for Rachel's fake company, the detective said gently. We're still determining whether they were complicit or just willfully ignorant. The room spun slightly. I held my breath. I had spent years believing that being strong meant forgiving. Now I understood something else. Forgiveness without accountability is just permission. Did you ever give Rachel consent to use your name or identity? Ramsey asked. I looked him in the eye. Never, he nodded. That's all we need. Later that week, the court date was set. I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. And when the sentence came, 10 years, I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I simply breathed. Rachel was led away, her hands cuffed in front of the life she once tried to steal. My parents, 3 years probation. A $150,000 civil penalty. They avoided prison, but they lost something far greater. Me. That evening I stood on the villa's back terrace. The sky was soft and blue-gray, the lavender bushes rustled in the breeze. I sipped my tea, watching the shadows stretch across the stone path. This house, the one they tried to take, was mine again. But it meant something different now. Not just a symbol of what I'd built, but what I had survived. No press conference. No revenge speech, just this quiet, the sound of boundaries that would never be crossed again. I wasn't just safe, I was free. They thought the scandal would ruin me. Some of the press covered it like a family tragedy. Others labeled it a fraud case turned soap opera. There were headlines, speculations, op-eds dissecting the meaning of loyalty, ambition, and blood ties. I didn't answer a single call from the media. I let the facts speak. I let the court record speak. And above all, I let my work speak. To my surprise, it echoed louder than ever. Within a month, contracts started flowing in. Not in spite of the chaos, but because of how I handled it. Clients said it was my transparency, my refusal to be gaslit, guilted, or quietly erased. Investors appreciated that I protected my name, and by extension, the trust tied to it. The city council invited me to speak at an urban development forum. They called my villa a symbol. I never built it to be one. But maybe that's what happens when you stop explaining yourself and simply stand. I hosted my first charity event that fall. It was small, intentional, real. The guests weren't distant relatives or people who showed up for appearances. They were the ones who had walked beside me when no one else did. Old colleagues, neighbors, friends who'd sat on my floor eating takeout during late design nights. Sarah, my best friend since architecture school, arrived with a bouquet of yellow tulips and a box of almond croissants. "Lisa," she whispered, looking around the now finished home, "you didn't just build a house, you built a line in the sand and you never let them cross it." I smiled. Not wide, just enough. "It's not a monument," I said. "It's a reset. A reset for everything. For the kind of woman I wanted to be. For the kind of future I wanted to shape, starting with others who had none of the support I once lacked." I launched a new project weeks later. Everlight Villas. Eco-conscious housing designed for single mothers. Affordable, dignified, and beautiful. The design concept was clean, open, and filled with light, just like I wanted their lives to feel. One afternoon, while reviewing site plans in the reading room, Alec walked in holding a thick envelope. "Infrastructure Board approved the first phase," he said, setting it down. I nodded slowly, eyes still on the elevation sketch. "I want this to feel like the opposite of what Rachel tried to do," I said, "built on truth, not illusion." He looked at me, longer than usual. "You know," he said quietly, "you're still the same person you were before all of this. Just sharper now, stronger. You don't flinch anymore." "I learned where my boundaries are," I said, "and I learned they're not up for negotiation." One early morning before sunrise, I found a cream-colored envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just my name, Lisa Crawford, written in a handwriting I hadn't seen in months. I knew immediately. Rachel. I brought it inside. Sat in the reading room. The first light of morning spilled across the hardwood floor as I opened it. No makeup, no threats, just words. "Lisa, I don't know if I even deserve to call you my sister anymore. But I'm going to be a mother. It's a girl, and I want to do something right for once in my life. I don't ask for forgiveness. I just hope one day my daughter hears about you, not from court documents but from me, the woman who stood tall when no one else did." I folded the letter gently, placed it in the bottom drawer of my cabinet. Not forgotten, just not in the way anymore. Maybe forgiveness would come, maybe not. But I no longer owed my peace to her regret. This was my life now, light-filled, open, and mine. I used to think forgiveness meant surrender, that to move on required some grand, silent concession, some breaking of pride so others could sleep well at night. But I was wrong. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't about freeing others from the consequences of their choices. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of carrying what they broke. 6 months after the sentencing, I stood on the rooftop terrace of my villa. The city glowed below like a quiet promise. The lavender in the garden below bloomed fuller than ever, its scent carried by the early evening breeze. I sipped from a glass of white wine and looked around at what used to be a battlefield. Now, it was only mine. I had stopped waiting for apologies, stopped hoping the people who hurt me would one day say the perfect thing at the perfect time to undo what was done. Some wounds don't close because of words, they close because you stop picking at them. Professionally, I was thriving. New partnerships, new projects, new respect from people who had once dismissed me in meetings. But more than that, I had built something I never thought possible. A life with no shadows behind me. No more stepping aside because I didn't want to be too much. No more shrinking to make others feel comfortable. No more quietly handing over my power to preserve peace. I wasn't cold. I was clear. And clarity, I realized, is what scares people who once depended on your silence. Sarah once said, "Lisa, you didn't just defend your house. You defended who you are." She was right. This wasn't about property or status. It was about something no one gets to steal. Your light. And mine? It still shines, steadily, without apology. The next morning, I opened my laptop and prepared for a speaking engagement. Under the logo of my company, now rebranded and growing faster than ever, was a new line I'd added weeks ago. "Success is yours. Don't let anyone steal your light." I believe that now, with every piece of me. Because I know this. Family can break your heart. Love can be twisted into guilt. But your values, your work, your truth, untouchable, if you choose to protect. I don't know if Rachel will ever change. I don't know if my parents will ever truly understand what they did. But I no longer live inside those questions. Because forgiveness, I've found, isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering who you are and refusing to trade it for anyone else's comfort. This villa, This life, it's not the end of my story. It's the beginning of the one I finally wrote myself.